I remember one teacher saying about Luke, as far as I'm concerned, I know that Luke's got autism, but as far as I'm concerned, he can leave it at the doorstep when he comes into my classroom.
Including pupils on the autistic spectrum may be very challenging for teachers. And for their autistic pupils, school life can be a blooming, buzzing confusion of uncertainty. Blackpool is home to the Jackson family. Jackie, her 3 daughters and 4 sons. All the boys are on the autistic spectrum, and 3 of them are school age.
8:30 in the morning, I've done a full day by then.
Jackie is currently doing a PhD on autism and regularly lectures at conferences for education professionals. She has also written a book about autism and family life. Ben is 8. He is on the autistic spectrum and has some developmental delay. He is on roll at a special school, but has a flexible education plan, including home education. Joe, who's 12, is included in mainstream school and also has ADHD.
And he went to punch me, so I went to punch him back, but I punched her really.
Luke is 16 and no longer attends school. He's written 2 books, designed a website from scratch, and for him, the school experience was very difficult. He has Asperger syndrome.
Sorry, that was just me messing about.
Action!
Describing autism is such a hard thing to do in the first place. I mean, it's characterised by what is called the triad of impairments, which is in social interaction, communication, and, this used to say imagination, flexibility of thinking. Basically, these difficulties, if you want to call them difficulties, I prefer to say differences, just manifest in so many different ways. So some people might not be able to speak at all, some people might speak an awful lot but about one subject. With social interaction, some people might not want to interact, others want to interact desperately but do it quite inappropriately.
Asperger syndrome is a communicational disorder, and I have problems with communication, social interaction and imagination, which has recently been changed to theory of mind. I have problems in social situations. These can be anything from school to a night out, can be anything at all. But these things which people usually find easy just don't come naturally to me at all. Are you sitting comfortably? Close your eyes and imagine going into a room awash with so many smells that you feel your head is likely to explode. Now imagine sitting amidst these smells and having someone scrape their nails down a blackboard, rustle crisp bags, or make any other noise that makes you cringe. Amid such noises is the unsettling buzz of a mass of people all around you, speaking a foreign language and occasionally glancing over at you and expecting you to make some acknowledgement to their unfathomable utterances. I have problems with processing, which is the biggest problem. I can't follow speech and things as quickly as other people, so there'll be a conversation going on, and because I haven't processed what's been said before, then I'll be one step behind everybody else.
Luke was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome when he was 8. All I got told was Asperger syndrome on the autistic spectrum. Goodbye, you know, that's it really. And even though intuitively I knew that he didn't like bright lights and I knew he didn't like being cuddled, and you start thinking, well, maybe if I mix him with other children more. So I was sending him off to nursery and thinking, you know, well, give it a try and he'll learn to interact. The earlier years were just this great big whirlwind of nightmare really, because he screamed all the time and I was taking him out into situations that he probably hated.
To be honest, I don't understand what people would be thinking. I don't understand that people feel different things to me. I don't understand that people think different things to me. I just don't understand how this works, to be honest. It's empathy, and it's knowing what people are feeling and thinking. It's being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes that is hard for an AS person.
The flexibility of thinking is something that really characterises all people with autism, in my opinion, because they're so very, very rigid and, you know, really not getting other people's point of view in quite the same way.
The lack of imagination being a symptom of AS has been changed recently to theory of mind, because if you look at a lot of the work, say, of a AS person, say if it's photography or if it's painting or if it's novels, then it was clear that there isn't a lack of imagination.
They don't know what my imagination is like, do they? And I say, I'd go and get one of my stories or something, bring it in and prove them wrong and say, look, I have got a good imagination.
Every single day all of these come out of the cupboard and get lined up on the windowsill because Luke likes the way the light shines through them. So we've got a bit of an ongoing battle, actually. So I put them away and he gets them back out. It's indicative of autism that they like to line things up, but that's also quite a problem at school. That was something that Luke used to get bullied for an awful lot, because he used to have his pencils lined up in a certain way before he started work, and other kids used to know that if they moved one the wrong way around, Luke would start screaming, and that used to get him angry. You know, Luke?
With Asperger's syndrome, like, you're not the same as everyone else, you're just into different things and you just stick on one thing. Like, my brother Luke, he's dead bad into computers at the moment and everything, and he knows all the names of guitars anymore and everything.
I think Joe's would have to be either reading and writing, because at the moment he's reading a lot of books, but I think he's definitely going to be a novelist when he's old, because he's an amazing writer.
What's the biggest number that you know?
Infinity.
Infinity? Wow.
Ben's specialist subject at the moment, I think, is maths. Ben developed maths very quickly.
How did you know about infinity?
I just knew about it.
I think it was a Friday. It was about tea time, about 4 or 5 o'clock, and he was counting on his fingers, and no one knew what he was doing because he was just sitting there going like this for ages.
I just write sums.
And then he just looked up at Mum and came out with this huge sum.
I know nearly all of them.
Like 346 plus 42 plus 85 plus 7 plus 2 plus 56 is this. And then came out with this answer. And Mum just checked it on the calculator on a computer. And he was right.
I don't really do reading, so I'm not really a reading guy. So I'm not good with reading, but I'm good with numbers.
He always says to Mum that he's a numbers guy.
I'm a numbers guy, really.
So that's definitely Ben's specialist subject.
I think the school were learning as much as I was to start with, and the main difficulty Luke had was with bullying. He was so different from his peers, and he stood out because he liked to walk round in circles, he liked to line things up, he only talked about dinosaurs at that particular time all the time. And he really couldn't understand why teachers would make him do circle time and why they would want kids would want to play cowboys and Indians.
When I was at school, I had a group of friends who basically just knew me, like, for who I was, and knew that Jackson was a bit weird, and just, like, understood, like, the different difficulties that I had at school. So making friends with them wasn't really an issue. But generally socialising just within, say, class and, like, with teachers and students alike was just a lot more difficult than it should have been, to be honest.
A lot of the time when he was very little, it manifested as aggression. You know, he just got angry and hit people. But as he got older and he started school properly, He just really withdrew into himself, and he was quite isolated and in his own little world in a way. Quite unhappy little world, I think, because he didn't really get what was going on.
Action!
What we're going to do today is we're going to look at experimental probability. We've looked at probability before, Joe. Thank you.
Joe is 12 years old, and Joe has a range of all sorts of complex difficulties. The most one that presents is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and all of the language difficulties that are associated with Asperger's syndrome.
If it's evens, it's going to be
50-50.
50-50, which is...
I used to mess about, like throw things across the classroom all the time and do back chat with the teacher and everything.
If I rolled the dice 6 times, okay, what should I get? Joe didn't respond well to me, and in truth I didn't respond well to him. It took a while for us to get used to one another, and I think it took a while for him to settle down.
All I ever heard was, Mr. Sagar's kicked me out of class, Mr. Sagar this, I can't stand Mr. Sagar. And, you know, it was this constant, you could tell there was just a clash the whole time. And then Joe's support worker said that she could time him, and within 5 minutes he would have been kicked out of class on every single maths lesson. Joe was doing it on purpose to get out of class, and he was winding Mr. Sagar up.
Okay, what you need to do is you need to tally up your frequency, okay? So write the numbers in the end column once you've actually...
Joe arrived as a bit of a mysterious package, really, because he wasn't at the time subject to a statement of special educational needs. Jackie, in many respects, was the key element in this. She was very open initially with her concerns. She gave quite an accurate picture of Joe's behaviour in school, which was very, very valuable to us.
But the most important thing is to listen, you know, to listen, to communicate. If a teacher phones me up and says, Joe's not coming to lessons, or Joe won't listen, or he's not done his homework, you know, I always say, thanks very much, I want to know. Because if we know at home that they've got an issue in whatever subject, then you can talk it through, and we can take our time doing the work that you do with kids that learn in a different way.
There was a period that we went through where Joe actually worked on his own away from the classroom, and I wasn't particularly happy about that. And it came to a head one day, and we sat down and discussed it and said it wasn't going to happen anymore. We were going to try and work together rather than work against one another.
I didn't really listen. He took me into the surf unit, closed the doors, and just we was there for ages, and he was just going on about stuff like, but I was just, there's a keyboard next to me, so I was just going doing on the keyboard like, and he was there going on, and I was like, but I could tell he was trying to get to me, like, and he did.
When I actually sat down and talked with Joe, I didn't understand what the problem was, and I realised that he'd got difficulties there, which I was aware of, his particular difficulties, but he just wasn't responding. So we sort of sat and discussed and looked at the way that we could actually take the lesson onwards.
I listened, but I didn't. I knew what he was saying, but he went on for too long. So he meant to say like, you need to improve and you're not getting it right at the moment, and you're not going to get a good education if you don't get on with your work properly and everything like that.
And I adapted my teaching styles, not just to suit him, but to suit the whole of the group. And from there, it seems to have been a pivotal moment, really.
And then it went quiet, and I said, what's going on in maths? And Joe said, it's 8 in maths now, he plays music. So I said, oh, you know, that's quite interesting, because Joe works better with music.
We made pizzas, symmetrical pizzas that we cut into fractions. Quite a lot of the time, we're looking for data handling. Well, why not get primary data? What I've become aware of is to try and give it some form of meaningful context for Joe and the other children in the classroom.
Well, once he let us run around the field, and we had a stopwatch each, and we were like timing each laps round. But then we thought that was dead good, but then we got back into the class and we were doing work on that, but that was dead good. Looking at things that they can get involved with and that they're going to remember and relate to, so I can relate to it into the classroom. We get to do the work, but we're still learning and everything.
It works for Joe, You know, it burns off his energy. Joe is a hands-on learner. It works far, far better for him. But it also means that he's not disrupting the rest of the class quite the same. Ben is 8 years old with autism and lots of his own other little added bits and bobs. He has an uneven profile, as children with autism do, so he's good at maths, he's absolutely amazing on the computer, the PlayStation, and other things he has learning difficulties, so he developmentally is a lot below his age.
Like on websites I really like, but there's some scary games on some websites where I don't go on.
He couldn't walk when he was 4, couldn't speak. Blatantly obvious he had special needs. It wasn't a case of working out what was wrong. He could have had a flag on his head saying autism at one time. But I was determined that with him, he wasn't going to, you know, have the same kind of difficulties that the others had. I kind of negotiated a deal where I was going to flexi-school him. So it's written in part 4 of his statement that he's part shared, so I teach him at home a couple of days a week.
I don't go to calls on Fridays.
What do you do on Friday then?
I do home education.
As a parent, you spend all of your time when you've got children, particularly children with a hidden disability, trying to pick out what I call autistically friendly teachers. The school that he's going to, I can't fault in any way, it's an excellent school. The head teacher was receptive.
Ben is on roll at Woodlands Special School. They have developed a flexible education plan with Jackie, which features inclusion at mainstream school St John Vianney.
Ben came to us initially into our early years class, and when he started with us, it was very much getting Ben into school, getting him used to the new routines, all the sort of new things that are involved in school life. So building up his confidence.
But something I don't like about Woodlands, all of it is too easy for me, and I really like harder things to do.
When we felt he was ready for some mainstream inclusive experience, he started coming through to St John Vianney's.
Okay, we're ready to get on the bus.
Now we've got to the stage where he actually spends the majority of his time in school, his school time, at St John Vianney's.
Certain children taken out from Woodlands and over to the resource base. And he used to talk about liking his talking kids, and he loves playing with his talking kids because some of the, you know, a lot of the children in his class at the time, they do now, but didn't speak.
Something I like about St John's, what you don't do at Woodlands, like your friends know what I really mean, but at Woodlands they don't.
One of the main aims for Ben when he's here at St John Vianney's is for him to have the opportunity to mix with peers of his own age and the opportunity to gain good role models of speech and language and behaviour, to give him the confidence to work in large group situations.
That's fantastic writing, and you've remembered finger spaces.
Okay, Ben, can you have a look for page 52? One of you two is going to include Ben, because you've got... Today's lesson is to join in with the oral part of the lesson, where it's the whole group working together, and to see if he can, on his own initiative, answer questions, put his hand up, and just take part with his peers in the class. Okay, if it was £10 and you only took £5, Ben, what would happen?
You won't be able to go.
Oh no, you'd drive all that way and you wouldn't get in, would you?
Well, we know already, don't we?
We know already.
One of the main targets was for Ben to be independent, for Ben not to wait for me to give him a second instruction and to listen to Mrs. Poole.
I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do.
OK, so you want to have a think about it, right.
If he got stuck on a particular question, for him to look to his peers for help.
Sphere, cuboid, prism, they're all there.
Ben would be very hesitant at the beginning of the year, putting pencil to paper, just giving him the confidence to do it, to manage things for himself. And in this way, one of the main targets for Ben is giving him life skills.
Ben, do you understand where to put that one now? No. Can you show me that shape on your page?
Yeah, I do numbers all the time and lessons I like about shapes. You have to know your names. That's your 3D shapes. They're hard. You have to write in what your shapes are called.
They love it when Ben comes in. They will ask, can I sit next to Ben at lunchtime? Can I come into the resource space and play with Ben? They really accept him as one of their class members. When Ben first came here, he would much rather have playtimes here in the resource space, and I would invite a few children to come in, and he would much prefer indoor play, and he didn't really seem to understand outside play. There were too many children, a big playground, and he would always ask where is the child he wanted to play. He couldn't spot them on the playground. But now we have Ben saying that could he have longer outside, and when the bell goes he tells me off sometimes because he said that was a very short playtime because he was just getting into a game of Star Wars. And he is beginning to go out and approach children and ask them, can we play a game, rather than waiting for me to go and initiate play with him or to other children to come up to him.
We're playing Star Wars. It's dead good.
It's a bit like being on holiday at the moment. It's perfect. He loves it. He's happy with everything. And the school are always happy to adapt, and the teachers are great with him. The only difficulty we always have is when any changes happen, because Ben is appalling with changes. He hates them.
Right, OK. Where are you going now? That was explained to me at the beginning of the year, that Ben will need all these structures. I think this does work well for Ben. However, there are times where there is a sudden change and he copes extremely well with those changes.
Quite often he doesn't react at school. You know, he's very, very quiet, and then he comes in and punches me, and, you know, I end up with a black eye. It's me that suffers an awful lot of the change. You know, they fall back when they change anything. But that's his education in a nutshell, really. For teachers to build children's self-esteem with any kind of difference is so important. For example, Ben takes the register to the secretary, so that gives him a sense of importance, that he can walk down a corridor on his own and is safe. He's got his own special little job.
School is just amazing. Different social situations, different expressions and different things to distract you. It's like you'd be having a conversation with someone, trying to work out what's being said and what expression's being said. But meanwhile, just to make it a little more difficult, then you have bells ringing in the background, you have people running around beside you, you have to think about what lessons you're going to and like what you're doing next. It just all makes it so confusing.
Children with autism or on the autistic spectrum are visual learners in the main, so work a lot better with pictures if they're younger children at schedules. But if schedules were made, put at the door and said, have you written your homework down? Have you picked up your bag? You know, do you know where your next lesson is? Then it would benefit all of the children.
I'm a more auditory learner, but my brother is a very visual learner because all people are so different and each has their own different subjects and each has their own things that they're good at. Then it depends completely on the person and what they find interesting and what they find they can do. There is a lot of positives. Ben is autistic, but he's the most honest kid you could ever come to find at all, and he's the nicest kid as well.
My best thing I really wanted to do is be a footballer, because I just really like football.
Joe is ADHD, but he has the best imagination of any kid around that I know.
And I've got pet fish, which my mum tried to drown.
And he says he hasn't got an imagination.
I find writing easy, which I suppose would be a skill that had helped me in later age.
So far, Luke has written 2 books. a guide for other young people with Asperger's syndrome, and another about the benefits of a gluten and casein-free diet for people on the autistic spectrum.
We am not allowed bread, so I have to have these things called corn cakes.
Gluten is the protein in wheat, barley, rye and malt. Casein is the protein in dairy produce. Children on the autistic spectrum, they don't process these proteins in the same way and they convert them to peptides, gluteomorphine and caseomorphine. It has the effect of heroin. It's very much like morphine. With Ben, it used to make him giggle hysterically. He would flick his fingers around, and Luke gets quite aggressive when he's off the diet. When they've had any of the things that they are intolerant to, they crave it, just like an addict would.
Go on.
You know, in maths they made pizza, Joe ate the pizza. Play-Doh is made with wheat. Paints have flour in, glue has flour in. There's so many things, so you have to provide it all. Can't go out to restaurants or on school trips, have ice creams or anything, but I mean, it's in Joe's statement, but it still gets missed.
My advice to someone who is expecting a child with complex difficulties is to really involve the parents as much as they possibly can, as early as they possibly can. But don't do that as a paper model. Don't do that as a piece of writing down, well, now we've got these targets, this is where we move from here. You really have to be prepared to apply those situations and also make your staff aware of what's going on. The successes that we may or may not have had with Joe, and I think we probably are having quite a lot of success with Joe, are largely due to Jackie's quite positive influence and support, even at the time she may have had frustrations and been concerned. We've never ever felt that she isn't supporting us and with us and isn't trying to work with us towards solutions.
I'm well aware of who Joe is, and you know, I would hate to teach him. I feel quite sorry for teachers. I'd hate to have him in a class, you know, because to try and do one job while they've got him bounding around squeaking must be really difficult.
You gave me time to look back, didn't you? But with other people, they don't give me time. They just ever go at me straight away. So I'm like, I'm looking away, and they go, Joe, concentrate. So I go, But with you, are just like looking, and then I get a chance to look back, but I'm only having a look, see what's happening, whatever. I'm like a cat, really. Yeah, I like moving.
AS isn't something different. It isn't something apart from the person. Say, it's not like an illness you could have. It's not like a cold or anything. It's just part of my personality.
Good.